Welcome. I am Judge Susan Simon, your Lewisboro Town Justice for the past 4 years. The local court is the one that you are most likely to have experience with. It could be you or your loved ones in court. I hope that this video will help you to understand more about what goes on in our court and more about my qualifications and experience as your town justice. Some of your friends and neighbors have volunteered to be here with me today to ask questions about their concerns and those of their neighbors about what goes on in our court. And I thank them for being here today.
Judge, what types of issues come before your court and how often do you meet to handle them?
Our court handles a wide variety of issues. It includes everything from civil matters and small claims, which is up to $3,000 maximum, to criminal matters, to landlord-tenant matters.
Thank you.
What are some of your unique qualifications?
Let me tell you about my unique qualifications, and I realized I missed part of John's question, which is when our court meets, and I'd like to address that as well. Our court meets on Monday nights, and in addition, we have trials during the day at various days and hours as we need them, because our calendar is busy and we need to be sure people have an hour, 2 hours, 2 days if they need it for a trial, so that they have a full opportunity to be heard. Among my unique qualifications are my background. In addition to being the judge for 4 years, and in addition to being an attorney, I spent years as a corporate executive. I also was a junior and senior high school math teacher, which gave me a unique insight into the students and youth and how they think. And in addition to that, I have served as an acting city court judge in Yonkers and Peekskill. And that is a very different environment from our Lewisboro court. I have also served as an instructor for the continuing legal education for judges.
Excellent.
What are your most pressing concerns?
Most of you know that one of my most troubling issues is when I have young people in our court. For many, their experience in our court will color how they view the justice system and the legal system for the rest of their lives.
What is it like being the judge?
It's about the people. It's about listening and hearing what the people say. And as I've said before, I feel very strongly about giving people a full and fair opportunity to be heard, to be sure that they receive justice that is fair and firm.
Well, you're the sitting town justice now. How does your experience help you?
Well, it's not a job you can learn overnight. I must tell you that although I had spent many hours in our court and other local justice courts as an attorney, being the judge is quite different. It's the issue of learning how to manage the courtroom, and we have a busy court. I can have 50 or 60 cases on a criminal night. Being sure that the court works, and there's also a lot of work that goes on that people don't see when we are not in court, physically present. Such as paperwork. When people come in with drunk driving charges, a lot of that we do fill out in court. We have to sometimes revoke their driver's licenses or suspend them. There are orders of protection that need to be signed. There are decisions that get written. I may hear a matter and then follow it up with legal research to see what the law is and write a written decision.
Do you live and work
I
in
do.
town?
I do. In fact, that gives the citizens of Lewisboro a little extra service that many people are not aware of. there are circumstances during the day where a judge is needed fast. Example, domestic violence and we need an order of protection, or an arraignment, and there's an emergency situation. I can be at the courthouse, and indeed many times I am, in 10 minutes. And I can also sign a warrant. So that's very helpful that I am accessible and available. I am not spending my days in court in White Plains or in New York City. I am here.
What are your most common offenses?
It's a range. As I said earlier, we have traffic tickets, so we have, unfortunately, too many speeders in town, a lot of drunk drivers. We also have a lot of domestic violence, and we have some robberies and other crimes like that.
Does being a woman affect your judgment?
Well, it's a good question that you ask. One of the things that's interesting is my first few nights on the bench, some of the attorneys, police officers, ADAs actually tested me. And I can't say if it was because I was new or because I was a woman, but one does not know. My belief is that people are entitled to a full opportunity to be heard. I feel very strongly about respect for everyone that is in front of me. And although I respect everyone, be assured that my justice is firm and just.
That reminds me, you were, I think, the first woman justice out here.
Yes, I am the first woman justice in town, and I'm very proud of that. And what has also happened as a side benefit is the fact that I'm serving as a role model for young women. I have been invited and have gone to the schools and to clubs and spoken, sometimes all women, sometimes mixed, about being a lawyer and being a judge.
How do you feel and what do you do when someone you know is involved in a case in your court?
I, for the many times, am not pleased to see them, particularly if it is a criminal matter. I do ethically need to disclose if there's a special relationship, and I do. And then if it's appropriate, I will withdraw or recuse myself from the case. There will be a certain percentage of cases that I'm going to know the people. It's a small town. And my job is to provide fair justice, which I do, whether or not I know you. But in those few cases, and that is to be used sparingly, where there's a potential conflict or someone is uncomfortable, I'll withdraw.
And another judge comes in.
And there are two judges in town.
Do you have to be an attorney to be a judge?
In New York State, you don't. However, I am an attorney, and an experienced attorney, and prior to taking the bench in our town, I also have served as an arbitrator and a mediator, and I bring the mediation skills to our court. I will sometimes try to mediate cases, and arbitration in some ways is similar to being a judge. However, as the judge, I have more responsibility. For example, I can send someone to jail. I can take away their driver's license.
How many cases do you hear?
I've never counted, but I can tell you that it's a lot. If you figure that we have in the neighborhood of 50 to 60 some nights, and I multiply that by 26 weeks, that means thousands of cases. So it's a busy court. However, having said that, it's not quite as busy as when I'm acting judge in Yonkers, and I see 120 cases in 2 hours. But it's a little bit different environment because there's more support staff to work with the judge on the decisions and the research. In Lewisboro, it's very hands-on. I'm doing my own research, I'm writing my decisions.
How do you treat kids when they come into your court?
You would ask that question. I treat the kids the same way I treat everyone else, with respect and fair. I will, however, many times with young people, take extra time to talk to them, to see what else is going on, and to be sure that their experience with our court serves them well.
Mhm.
And also it still has to serve the interests of the community too.
Do you use like alternative sentences with them? Or?
I do make use of community service. I also have, for some of our young people who have been speeding, required that they write an essay on the dangers of speeding, and I read every one. And I have to tell you, the statistics that they have presented are extremely interesting. I also sometimes require, and this is not only kids, defensive driving as part of the sentence.
To go back to the previous question before that, how often do you get called for an emergency and how long does it take you to respond to them?
I can, some weeks I have no emergencies, and that's fine. Some weeks I can have 2 emergencies in one day. I can come back, get called, leave my office, go do an arraignment, write an order of protection, come back to my office. I'm not here long and I get another call. It can be during the day, it can be at night. I can be at the court in 10 minutes, and that's without speeding.
What's the hardest thing that you do? Your job?
Balance. My job is about balance. I have to balance rights. I have to balance, if there's 2 civil litigants in front of me, the rights of both parties. If I have a criminal matter, I have to balance the rights of our citizens. For example, being safe with the rights of the defendant. They have constitutional rights. And sometimes it's a hard balance. It's a very hard balance.
Well, Judge, this has been very interesting to hear about your job and all the facets of it. And now you have a chance to tell us what you would like the voters to do.
Well, of course, I hope they will, 1, go to the polls, and 2, vote for me. Before going to the polls, I would ask that the voters consider my qualifications. And since I am the sitting judge, they can look at my record of delivering justice that is fair, impartial, ethical, and efficient. They have seen me demonstrate my calm judicial temperament. I have been told by many attorneys in court that I have a lot of patience. And they have observed firsthand my dedication and concern for our citizens.